NBA schedule release day. There's some weird stretches here on the schedule we'll break down. That's all today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Still some time. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. There's Doug Branson. Find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. And I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me every weekday on WFNZ, your flagship station of the Charlotte Hornets, 12 to 3 p.m. via Wes and Walker. This one's a weird one, Doug. Schedule release day. NBA schedule just dropped as of this recording like an hour ago. We got some analysis. We were basically doing a show before we hopped on the camera, before we hopped on the mic. We did a pre-show that could have been the show, but now we're going to give you the real show. Let's bebop, 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 go back and forth. What you got for me, Doug? What is your first observation that you can tell the people about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the weirdest thing on this schedule is because you always look for the big home stretches, you look for the big away stretches, you look for the back-to-backs. Back-to-backs not bad this year. I count 11 of them, and there aren't a significant number of away back-to-backs.
There are 15 back-to-back games.
Okay, good start. I can't count, folks. You know what trips me up? You know what always trips me up? 30 days versus 31 days, and when the back-to-backs hit at the end of the month, I think that's where I often lose my count. All right, 15 back-to-backs. Check and see how many of those are away, because those are the brutal ones.
4 road games.
Okay, so see, that's not bad. Out of 15, you get 4 of those.
Yep.
That's not bad. Okay, the big odd thing, though, is when you look at these home stretches and away stretches, and from January 24th until February 7th, they have 9 home games that they play. Trailblazers, Pelicans, Lakers, Nets, Clippers, Nuggets, Wizards, Bucks, Spurs. Following that, directly after that stretch of 9 home games, they then go on to play 8 straight away games in February. Now, there's a break there that is the All-Star break, but still you're playing 8 games away from home consecutively. That's odd. That's the weirdest thing that I've seen in a Hornets schedule, honestly, since we've been doing the show.
I can't think of a weirder one. Right. So 17 games in a row. You can divide it as much in half as you can, an odd number. 9 games, 8 games. That is a real weird one. So the fact that you're playing 9 straight home games starting from January 24th to February 7th, and then you're going on the road February 9th, and you won't be back until the start of March, yeah, that's a lot. Very weird split there. And then just going over the back-to-backs, because you talked about it, 15 total back-to-backs. That's what a lot of people are looking at. You're right. 4 away back-to-back games, 2 road home, 4 home road, but 5 home back-to-backs. So that's not nearly as bad. If you're talking about a third of those back-to-backs being at home, yeah, man, I'll sign up for that, given how bad it could be on the other side.
Some other things, I think I counted 8 weird tips, meaning like before 6 o'clock, so your noons, your 2s. I don't know if you can double-check me there, but that's what I had. I did notice that the Hornets got their home matchup on MLK Day, January 20th. They got that back, so that will be against the Dallas Mavericks. So that'll be one I think that will sell a lot of tickets.
Yep.
And they play LeBron James at home on January 27th. I think they get Steph Curry at home March 3rd, so you got to wait a while on that one. You get 2 home games against the Bucks. You get 2 home games against the Celtics, and those happen relatively early, November 1st and November 2nd. Both times they play the Celtics this year, they're sets of games. So it's back-to-back home, November 1st, 2nd, and then April 11th, 13th to close the season, you get Boston. And so that could sort of transition us into what I think the ultimate conversation here is about the schedule. When you look at it, whether it's how they open or how they close or what the distribution is in terms of home and away games, Walker, is this a favorable schedule for the Charlotte Hornets if they stay healthy, of course?
Yeah, I think so. Last year, it was a pretty easy schedule to start. You were hoping, especially without Miles Bridges suspended for that 10 games going into last year, you were hoping that they could tread water, and when Miles comes back, you could hit the ground running or not even hit the ground running, just stay afloat even more so once they got into the harder part of their schedule. It's pretty hard to start. So at Houston, at Atlanta, Miami, Toronto at home, those are your first 4 games. Those are your October games. And then at the start of November, it's difficult really all throughout that entire month. So you mentioned the Boston games to start. You have a home Detroit game. Playoff team Philly.
That's always tough, by the way. Well, it hasn't always
been last
tough,
couple
but
of years,
recently it's been difficult to beat the Detroit Pistons for some reason.
For some reason, after going on what was like a 17-game winning streak, now they're on like a 3 or 4 game losing streak. So with the exception of a couple of Detroit games, there are a lot of postseason opponents here. Philly, Orlando, Milwaukee, Cleveland. Brooklyn is a nice one. So Brooklyn, Detroit back-to-back. Excuse me, 19th, 21st. But other than that, November, that's going to be hard. So if you start to look, okay, beginning of the schedule, going to be pretty tough for all intents and purposes. You go to April, you have a lot of road games. You have 4 out of the 7 that are on the road. And before you finish up with Boston, you have Indiana, Sacramento, Chicago, Memphis. Like it feels like the easier games, quote unquote, are all kind of dispersed in the middle. So yeah, I would say it's not a great end to the season. The bookends feel particularly hard, including the entire month of November.
But honestly, I like starting with all of those postseason opponents to start the season, because I think typically young teams that play fast and play loose with the ball offensively can sneak up on those postseason teams who take a little bit. They're older teams. They take a little while to wake up. And so, I think, when you're talking about the games against Boston, I think you can sneak one of those games in. Miami, even Houston to start the season. I know both those games are away. I don't know what I don't know what that team is. So I'm not even, I think that's a very winnable game. But I like dealing with all of these postseason teams early on, and it forces you as a team to, not rest on your heels. You've got to be on the front foot against these teams. And I think Charles Lee will have this team maybe more ready than they've been in previous seasons. So I like that. Now, to end the season, Boston, that might seem tough, but if Boston races out ahead, then, those could be both rest games for Boston. So you've got some opportunities there. What I'm really looking at, Walker, in terms of is this favorable or not, is that away stretch that they have that sort of wraps around the All-Star break. Because I think because of that, coming out of the All-Star break, you not only have a bunch of more away games, they're all on the road out west. And so if you're the Hornets, I think you've got to go into the All-Star break. If you have playoff hopes, OFF, then you've got to go into that break maybe 500. And that's a lot to ask. But if you have play-in hopes, just postseason hopes in general, I think you can't afford to be 10 games back of 500 coming out of that. I do think, though, this is my final observation, I do think that when you've looked at years previous, there have been home game distributions that were not in the Hornets' favor. They were playing a ton of home games in March and April, and they sacrificed by playing a ton of away games earlier in the year, and it was the weight distribution was way off. In this one, I think it's a little bit different. In this construct, I think they've got some more even distribution, both in the quality of opponents month to month, but also home and away.
Okay, let's talk more about the schedule. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. There's one specific day they're not playing. Yeah, you guessed it. 0 Christmas Day games for the Hornets. They are the only team continuing that streak with 0 Christmas Day games in their franchise's history. We'll discuss what that means, how much we care, and I have another fun oddity on the other side. Still to come here, Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never really want them to stop. But as the playoffs aren't even happening in the NBA, we're telling you the schedule right now. We still need to have the start of the regular season. WNBA is about to start back up again, but we've been on this break, especially with the Olympics over. We get fewer games. The sports, they're not sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Still some time to get some bets in during the summertime. Head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Here's my favorite oddity of the entire NBA schedule, Doug. And I don't know if this means anything. I don't think it means anything, but it's a weird one. Weekend games. On Saturday, if the Hornets play, the overwhelming likelihood is that they're playing at home. They have 13 games on Saturday. 10 of them are at home. 3 of their Saturday games are on the road.
Wow.
If you look at Sunday games, they have 10 total contests on Sunday. Mm-hmm. They have 1 home game on Sunday. They have 9 road games on Sunday. So if you're getting over that hangover, don't worry about it. Just stay at home, chill. The Hornets are going to be on. You don't got to go to the arena. You don't got to rally all the kids and bring them to Spectrum Center. Nah, man, just watch at home. It's all good because they're going to be playing on the road on Sunday. Saturday is the night to go out and check them out at the Spectrum Center. So weird weekend, little split there for the Hornets, but I don't know what that means. I don't know if I've ever had research on that before, but I've got it now, and I thought I'd share it with the people.
What kind of Bible Belt team is this? I mean, going away for all the Sunday games, George Shinn and company would never have allowed this to happen in old school Charlotte. This is new school Charlotte. No, I kid.
That is the day,
that is odd.
rest.
I will say the Saturday thing, though, I don't know how much influence ownership has over the schedule. But it is beneficial to the Hornets, a team that is going to struggle to sell tickets until they get good, to have all of those games out on a Saturday at home.
No, it's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're looking at the biggest turnouts and you want as many people there as possible, perhaps the Saturday is the way to go about that. Friday, by the way, in case you cared, split between 16 total Friday contests. 8 games at home, 8 games on the road on a Friday night. No Christmas Day game. It's happened again.
Womp, womp.
Didn't expect it. Nobody should have expected the Hornets to be playing on Christmas Day. I think we are going through this every single time on this day. We have the same take, and we've had the same take since I've been doing this podcast in 2018 and beyond. The Hornets have not earned the right to play on Christmas Day. I am totally fine with them not playing on Christmas Day. If anything, as a media member, I actually kind of like it. But as a fan...
How dare you? How dare you?
As a fan, you also have to understand this has been one of the squads, the only squad in the NBA to not have reached a conference finals. They are in rebuild mode, retool mode, kind of. Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. And catch me again this time next year. I hope I have a different take. Hey, we really earned it, but we're probably going to be recycling the same material.
No, I think honestly, like Charles Lee and this new staff, they would agree with that take, that the Hornets need to earn that. There needs to be a prize that is won by this team. And I hope it is something. I don't think they're not going to make a major deal out of that, I think, in the locker room. But I hope that within the sort of bulletin board material that they come up with each year, that is at least mentioned. Like, hey, in 36 years, this team has never played on Christmas Day. And the only way that the NBA is going to allow that to happen is if either the Hornets draft a generational prospect, the Spurs are playing on Christmas Day this year. They didn't do anything in particular to earn that other than lucking into Victor Wembanyama. So I guess if the Hornets, if they somehow are able to draft Cooper Flagg, then maybe they would unearn their way into a Christmas Day game. But I hope that doesn't happen, honestly. I hope the Hornets do something this season, whether it's compete or win the NBA Cup or make a Hawks type of like, whoa, that kind of came out of nowhere playoff run that would necessitate them breaking that streak.
Like, get back to being a league pass team. If they're a fun squad this year that outperforms expectations and they're everybody's bet to make a big leap in Brandon Miller's third year after a full healthy season of LaMelo. Now he's right in the middle of his big boy contract. That backcourt is going to be fun to watch for years to come. Let's put them on Christmas Day because that's the future of our league, and let's market that on the day that everybody wants to tune in and see the association. That's the way that I'm hoping that they get there. Any gripes that you have with the Hornets having never played on Christmas has to go back to the NBA possibly not taking advantage of everybody's second favorite NBA team when it was Muggsy, LJ, Alonzo. Maybe you go back to Mason and Glenn Rice when those guys were playing as many minutes as anybody. You could go back and say, hey, David Stern, why didn't you put our boys on Christmas Day? They've kind of earned it, especially with the popularity that team carried. Now, the last 5 years, the second iteration of this franchise, nah, man, they haven't earned it. I'm not sweating it.
Well, no, and I think they have done a good job of rewarding franchises. You know, Sacramento got a game. Indiana's had a game recently. Atlanta's had a game. So, like, these middle-tier markets, it's not as if the NBA is shunning all of those and they're shunning Charlotte. There's a very clear reason why Charlotte does not have a game here. And so, yeah, hopefully they do something. I mean, again, I think the NBA Cup, it's kind of a nice thing. It gives you something in season to aspire to, because I think it puts you on a national stage in a way that would attract some attention for a future game on Christmas.
All right, speaking of the NBA Cup, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. I thought about cupping up next, but cupping up sounds like what you do when you wear baseball gear.
That's right.
Yeah, cupping up.
The goods.
Going on the diamond. We got to protect the goods here in Charlotte, no doubt about it. We'll talk about the NBA Cup schedule also released. We'll break that one down as well in the last segment of Locked On Hornets. Doug, they don't have a Christmas Day game. They do have a nationally televised game.
Oh, yeah?
And it's
a
the
real
real
one or
one.
A fake one? Real one or a fake one?
They've got more of those. They do have a few on NBA TV. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 NBA TV games. There's one ESPN game. They play against Chicago on ESPN at Chicago again on January 17th with a 9:30 tip. So they're trying to make the ball thing happen again.
That's how you know it's a. I'm just going to say something. They have all fake national TV games. That is a ghost national TV game. That is a fake national TV game. That is the schedule makers going, what possible way can we justify giving the Charlotte Hornets one national TV game that we know for a fact we are going to yank out from under them and not actually give them? Well, the Ball brothers thing. One of them we don't know is ever going to play again, and the other one is named Lonzo. I'm kidding.
Oh, God. Oh, no,
I'm
you
kidding.
didn't. Knock on wood. Aggressively. Knock on wood. No, it's a good point because they're going to take that away. We have one now. When the season is about 25 games through, they're going to say, nope, psych. Almost got you. They're going to do the State Farm fish dollar bill at the end of the line and hook thing.
And that, I don't even think that has to do with their record. Like if the Hornets are playing above 500 basketball, unless they both are, I guess if both teams are playing above 500, maybe there's a chance that you hang on to that game. But the Hornets would need to. The Hornets would need to be like a top 4 or 5 team in the East to justify doing it. Otherwise, I don't see any reason, because I don't know if Lonzo's even going to be able to participate in that game, and that's the only way you can market that game.
NBA Cup. You want to go over the schedule there?
Yes. I hope you have it in front of you, because I don't.
Looking bad. That one's a tough one because I don't have the Hornets NBA Cup schedule. We are looking it up, and we are stalling at the same time. And the Hornets announce the Emirates NBA Cup 2024 group play schedule. The first game, November 12th at Orlando, 7 p.m. Second game a week later at Brooklyn, November 19th, 7:30 tip. They have a game November 29th New York, 12 p.m. So that's a noon tip in the Spectrum Center against New York. And then the last one in group play is December 3rd, Philadelphia, Spectrum Center, 7 p.m. So 2 on the road, 2 at home, November 12th through December 3rd. Those are your 4 NBA Cup schedule games. Doug, what is your takeaway?
I think the Hornets have been competitive with Orlando, even though Orlando's obviously better now. I think that Brooklyn obviously took a major step back. They're going into some sort of rebuild mode, so that's going to be a very winnable game. I think the odd tip against New York it's not going to be like at New York at 7:30, kind of in their groove. So I think that's an opportunity. And then the final game against Philadelphia, because it's so late, you're giving yourself plenty of opportunities for Philadelphia. And I know we shouldn't be talking about injuries at all on this program with how many the Hornets have sustained, but you're just giving plenty of time for Joel Embiid to go down. So if they were playing that one, a little bit earlier, if that was the first game, I'd say, well, you probably chalk that one up to an L. But I think the Hornets, I'm trying not to look at this with like crazy rose-colored glasses, but I like the lineup of teams here. Obviously New York and Philadelphia, just on their face, have presented the Hornets with a lot of challenges over the past couple of seasons, particularly because they play with size, which has bothered the Hornets. Because Mark Williams hasn't been healthy, because they haven't had a great center rotation, because this is not a team, even when healthy, that is a good physical rebounding team. So they've had problems with New York. They can't do anything with Joel Embiid, which doesn't make them particularly unique. I don't know that a lot of teams can, but they've just struggled mightily of keeping him away from 60 points. So those are 2 tough matchups for sure. But I like Orlando. I like Brooklyn. I think they've got a shot to be surprising here with the NBA Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty evenly distributed, because we're looking at this from Charlotte's point of view, but everybody else is going to be seeing Charlotte and saying, okay, there's a win. So East A division, Charlotte, New York, Orlando, Philly, Brooklyn. East B has Milwaukee, Indiana, Miami, and then on the outside,
that's brutal.
Of the playoff,
I would much rather be in the division that I'm in than the 4th team in that division.
Well, Toronto, Detroit, those are the other 2 teams in it. And then East C is the best one. You have Boston and Cleveland, but then you have Chicago, Atlanta, Washington. So so that would be if you swap Atlanta for Charlotte, and we had to play because Chicago we're just cursed against Chicago with or without Lonzo Ball. We just cannot beat Chicago. So I would not want to be in that one either. Okay, I'd pick East C, like switching out with Atlanta or Chicago, but yeah, East A, Hornets, no matter how you slice it, it's going to be an uphill battle to get out of group play and go for the NBA Cup.
They had the worst. The Hornets had the worst point differential of any team in NBA Cup games last season, but they had to play Milwaukee. Who's the other? I think they played New York too, and got washed. So yeah, look, I mean, it's going to be tough. They've got to be healthy, but you got a new coach. I mean, if you can stay healthy, and you got Brandon Miller, who is going to be ready to start and ready to play well. I'm giving them a puncher's chance. I'm not giving them a significant chance, but I don't think that anybody gave the Pacers any kind of chance to do what they did. The Hornets aren't on that level. They're not on that level now, even that Indiana was then. But crazy things are going to happen with this midseason. Here's my question. Are you does the NBA Cup, after they went through it for 1 year, does it excite you at all from a Hornets, perspective?
Oh, I totally think it matters. Here's why. It is a great it's a great distraction for what the actual basketball is, for a nice little in-season tournament that matters in the moment. And then we get the neuralizer from Men in Black, and we completely forget about who won it. Nobody remembers what happened, and we'll move on. And you can hang the banner. That'll be fantastic. I'm actually for it. That's kind of cool. But nobody is going to put a lot of merit to it after the fact. In the moment, people are going to care about it.
Oh, you absolutely. If you're the Hornets, you absolutely hang the banner. You've got plenty of room.
Well, the Lakers did. That was the big discussion. It was the Lakers winning the cup. and they still hung the banner. And I was like, wait, I don't know. Does it mean? Yeah, man, we're hanging.
If you're the Hornets, you hang 2 banners. One says NBA. Actually, you hang 3 banners. One says NBA, one says Cup, and one says Champions. You hang as many banners. You do 1 per letter, I think, if you win the NBA Cup. I love it. I love it. I think it's great, particularly for this team. And I say that because Charles Lee, he's on the record. What did he say? Everything matters. And I think that this whole NBA Cup thing is about teams taking the regular season more seriously. And really it's playoff teams that they, older, more veteran teams that would typically rest players, get ready for games that are going to be happening months and months away, to get them to take November and December more seriously. But when you're a young team too, maybe this is just an extra bump and an opportunity for Charles Lee to instill some of those principles and for them to get more serious. I think it's also, just as a general thought, I think the NBA Cup is going to be much more fun this season because you saw teams there were some teams and some players that didn't totally understand the point differential thing, and that you had to take every possession, and that blowing out teams was not a sign of disrespect, but a sign of like, hey, you got to do tiebreakers. Everybody's educated now. Like, nobody can claim ignorance at this point. You could still be ignorant, but you cannot claim ignorance. And so I think it's going to be a much more fun experience as teams really go after one another. It might not be fun for the Hornets because they might be on the other side of one of those blowouts.
Yeah, that's true.
But it'll be much more fun to watch, I think.
I like that Indiana got to the conference finals, so there wasn't any of this. They went for it in the NBA Cup. Does that mean it hurt them in the postseason? Pacers getting to the conference finals, and they didn't compete with Boston, but honestly, compared to all the other opponents the Celtics faced, yeah, it was a sweep, and they were competitive games. So at least the Pacers did that. The Lakers, people would say they went for it in the NBA Cup, and they didn't make it deep into the postseason. They ran into Denver again, and they lost to Denver the last time. They weren't going anywhere. So I'm glad that nothing like that happened, to where a favorite ended up falling short, yet they won the NBA Cup. So we don't have to have that. But the
storyline for the Lakers, I remember this, the storyline for the Lakers was LeBron James is doing this so that he can get more money for his young players, so that they will sort of buy in later on in the year. Like, hey, remember, folks, I was the one that like carried us and got you a little more cheddar, so why don't you buckle down and get ready for this playoffs? And
Bronny James
were like, yeah,
now contributing to the family fund. Bronny
I don't know.
James
Do you get extra money if you lose? Yeah, but they won. I mean, but do you get extra money if you just if you get to that finals? I'm not sure. But anyway, the young players were like, thanks, Bron, for the money, but we're not going to make it.
Yeah, it's this is the best we can do. You want an NBA title? I thought you said NBA Cup. That's my fault. I misheard you. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube. Make sure you get your Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. That's curated by Doug Branson. Also follow him on Twitter at Doug Branson LOH. We should don't do it here, but we should talk about the giant life-size, not even life-size, the giant Hugos that are wasting away next to the highway.
Those are my spirit animals.
I know.
If the Hornets are injured again, around February 20th, those will totally be my spirit animals.
You can find him Doug tweeting about that. Yeah, like a hyperextended broken Hugo knee, and he's smiling, but he's dying inside. You can see it. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. We'll be back with you sometime next week.
Bye-bye.